So after science, technology, and economics, I'm going to talk about a little different subject, what Greeks called it oropolitics, politics and mountains and mountaineering. So this is about the Siachen Glacier. It's one of the northernmost point of India in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And this glacier, 76 kilometers long, has been embroiled in a war between India and Pakistan, high altitude war for the last 26 years. Luckily, last 3-4 years there is a ceasefire, but otherwise this glacier is very much in the news. It's a long glacier going across, as I said, and though it may look very deceptive, but this little section that you see will take you 2 days to travel. It's a very difficult portion, and this worm that you see in center is the Siachen Glacier from bottom to top. Right side is the Chinese territory, so and the left side is Pakistan. And in between left side, that snow ridge is the Saltoro Ridge where all the fight takes place. And you have to walk and walk, though it's a flat glacier, it's rising only about 8,000 feet in about 9 days, but it will take you about at least 20 days to go and come back, or one of the world's most difficult terrain. So this is the situation today. And whenever we talk of Siachen Glacier, anywhere in the world, they ask why Siachen is so important. It's a barren land for a fight between India and Pakistan and spend so much money and time. Well, the reason is the geography of the Siachen Glacier. And it is said that the nation which does not know its geography is condemned by history. And we have suffered that once in 1962 with the Chinese. So it is imperative that we get up and defend Siachen. Secondly, they said what we mountaineers are doing in an area where artillery shells are exchanged very regularly. And that answer to that lies in the history of the Siachen, which I will now narrate to you. The road to Siachen starts from the highest motorable road in the world, Khardungla, and you may find about 200 army trucks at the peak of time going across. And this is the highest bridge on the glacier. And need not get into this highest because plane lands at 12,000 feet in Leh, and whatever you do after that is always the highest. The highest post office, highest petrol pump, highest, everything is highest. And at the same time across, it's to use it the term highest cold. Even in October, the diesel in this truck freezes totally. And they put the fire inside the truck to get it warmed up, and then only the truck will start. The army is very good at these sort of jugaads. You reach 150 kilometers to the snout of Siachen, where the glacier Nubra River emerges. And this glacier gets its name from roses. Sia in a Balti language means a rose. And you will find plenty of roses like this growing all around in the glacier, on the rocks, and sometimes even between the snow. And so that's why it gets its name Siachen. What we learn majoritarily about Siachen by this couple, bullock workmen and hunter workmen, they were cyclists, and they cycled all over India, in South India and everywhere. And when season was hot, they would move on to Karakoram glaciers and explored all the variety of glaciers there, including Siachen in 2 trips, in 1911 and 1912, and named the peaks, surveyed them, and brought a lot of information. And she was an absolutely pakka lady, wearing a skirt and a long topi and ice axe, and with Italian guides, she would move around the glacier in a great style. And whatever points you reach, she would leave these pamphlets, votes for women. Because in 1911, American women had no votes. So she was absolutely passionately ready about it. And then for many, many years, 1912 to exactly 1971, the region was relatively left alone, with only a few security parties going there, till India, Pakistan went on the Bangladesh war. And a lot of action took place in this area also, led by Colonel Rinchin, Senior. And in fact, he was given the Mahavir Chakra, one of the highest honors. And finally, the Shimla Agreement was signed between Prime Minister Bhutto and Mrs. Gandhi. And this agreement demarcated each and every point on the glacier from Kashmir till the Karakorams, till they reach one grid point called NJ 9842. And it just mentioned that glaciers, boundaries shall follow thence, not to the glaciers. But which glacier? That was not specified. And so these 5 words became a ticking time bomb, because little inclarity on this was a problem. And to advantage, Pakistan sponsored expeditions Japanese, Russians, and all different, going on to the Siachen Glacier from Pakistan side and climbing different peaks. It was great mountaineering, but as you see, on every summit, there was a Pakistani military officer reaching and a Pakistani flag which was displayed. And this sort of creating a de facto control over the glacier, that people are coming from Pakistan, our permission, and our officers are climbing the summit. And this went on for about 18 years. More than 70 expeditions went, and one does not know why Indian government remained quiet for so long. Finally, the maps appeared, which drew straight line from NJ 9842 to Karakoram Pass, and thus giving the entire control of Siachen Glacier to Pakistan on paper. And generally, these hill areas or Himalayan boundaries are drawn on the watershed principle on the mountains, high mountains. So, to protect this kind of a glacier against Pakistan aggression, Indian Army landed on the glacier on 13th April 1984. And here you see the buffers moving, and it was a very major war. That was the starting of it. Indian Army moved up onto the glacier in a very fast pace and controlled all the passes, glaciers from which Pakistan could ever come in. And a lot of equipment was taken onto the glacier. It was a very major operation to take all this, and it was testing human and machines to the maximum. People had to stay up to about 22,000 feet and operate guns in extreme cold, which can go up to minus 50 degrees centigrade. And soon the first expedition came from the Indian side to counter the Pakistanis, Indian-British team, of which I was the leader, and we were supported by the army. And it was a wonderful team. We all enjoyed, we were all friends. And first we climbed the peak on the left, Remo 3, which is about 23,000 feet. And on the right-hand side, the Remo 1 peak, we reached within 300 feet of the summit. But because it was late, we decided to sort of pitch a tent platform. And doing that, one of our mountaineers, Stephen Venables, is dropped a rucksack on the wrong side of the mountain, and there went his sleeping bag, ice axes, crampons, everything. It was a harrowing experience to bring him back from this as a rescue. But later on, as we returned, this made international news, particularly in the British press, that a British climber, Venables, has dropped his rucksack. And that announced to the world that now the Indians control the Karakorams, and the British have gone with permission of Indian government and climbed on the Siachen. So we always tell Stephen that, look, your fallen rucksack has played an important part in the history of India-Pakistan relations. But when the way back, we would have become history, because the river was in floods. It was very difficult to get out, and entire expedition was brought out. But the world now knew of the war. The coldest war, the highest war, the glacier war, variety of names were given. And as I kept on returning to the glacier, and here it's the snout of the glacier, which is 3 kilometers wide and about 1,000 feet up. Indian soldiers get trained what is called the Siachen Battle School, and the training goes on for about 3 weeks in a very strong way, and morale is very high. No enemy can dare when Jammu Kashmir Life Infantry is here. But behind this all slogans, there is a price to pay. And this walls, memorial wall, it's the name of all the martyrs written in 3 columns on both sides. So it's a lot of people have died trying to defend Siachen. So faith plays an important part. People go up to the glacier after a prayer, and going through these gates become a very emotional affair, because when the ring bell and go in, they knew that all of them will not come back alive through this gate. Somebody will die there, somebody will be taken away by helicopters, and somebody would be injured. So with a spring in their steps, but faith in their heart, they have to move up to the glacier. And initially the glacier is very beautiful. We trekked often on this, and it gives a beautiful little this thing. And without the war, this could be very prime walk with lovely ice pinnacles and rock pinnacles rugging around. And soon glacier shows its teeth. Crossing of crevasses are difficult. Then going across ice walls, where any side if you fall, you are dead immediately. And bridges to be crossed, and sometimes wall to be climbed on bridges. And here I leave it to you to decide whether he fell inside or went on the other side. And everything comes by helicopter. These huge helicopters are every morning ritual. When the weather is clear, you'll get 5 or 6 of them coming with a huge noise and sound. And whatever they bring, is carried up by soldiers higher up to the different posts, which I said go up to 22,000 feet. And somewhere is winches have been put up, which is itself is a technological marvel in this cold to bring up all the luggage. It's something fascinating. And caught in between this artillery fire are the most beautiful mountains the world ever has. And once the war ends, when the army is back, this will become the future playground of the mountaineers. We have the world's highest unclimbed peak, Saltoro Kangri, which is rising in the center of the Siachen. And we climb peak called Padmanabh, which looks down to about a plateau, which is also unique in the world. 18,000 feet of snow and ice packed here. And it will take you 5 days to just walk across from here till the top. And there are various things. Now, one of the things in the glacier itself is the temples are to OP Baba, that is observation post. They are the officers who go right till the border and direct accurate artillery fire. And there was one Om Prakash, OP Baba, who went till the border and directed very accurate fire to save many lives of Indian soldiers. And before he was killed, he became a legend. So all the temples on the glacier are dedicated to OP Baba, and only OP Baba. There are no other temples and goddess there. Inside, there are simple flags being put up, and on the left-hand side flag you will find the mixture of Hindu, Muslims and Buddhist names, all the soldiers who are fighting together. And many times abroad it has been portrayed that this is a war between Muslims and Hindus, which is not true. This is a war between two nations, India and Pakistan, and Indian Muslims are fighting equally, shoulder to shoulder with his Hindu and Buddhist soldiers. And the soldiers say that a bullet does not know a man's religion, so why should we try to know it? And there have been some great fights. This is a mountain about 22,000 feet on which Pakistan had a post, and that could have become very serious impediment to India. So Subedar Bana Singh led 22 people. They're standing 3 nights on the way. They had reached the summit, and there was a hand-to-hand fight where they knocked off all the Pakistanis. And as a result, Subedar Bana Singh got the post named after him. And he was the first person who is alive and won Paramveer Chakra, because otherwise generally people who were dead in the action, they get it. And there are various technology, which I cannot go in full details, but army is using snow scooters, which we can take 200 kilos and move on a Zafi. And there is a historic call, Turkistanla, where we stood in 1998, and nearby is Indira Call, the northernmost point of India. And when I stand here, the water below my feet would go into this Urdok Glacier and to Lake Lop Nor in the Chinese Central Asia, while water which is melting towards the south will go into the Arabian Sea. So this is truly the divide between Central Asia and South Asia, and it's a very historic point. We celebrated our reaching there by a little campfire on snow, just gather some old parachutes and burn them, so make a little lovely bonfire. But then in the winter it gets so cold, even a boiled water, if you throw it in the air, it immediately freezes into snow granule, and before it falls, it is makes a complete rainbow. And human beings have to survive in this sort of a cold. My son, Nawang, he was with me on these 2 of the trips. He was a total Bombay boy, brought up here, studied in schools like you, and went to college. And we being a Gujarati family, we had a cloth shop where he joined me. But every time he used to say that this is an air-conditioned jail for me. I'm not interested in doing this, so I want to join the army. So he worked very hard and became an officer in the Gorkha regiment. And very soon, then few years, he was fighting the terrorist, and he was killed by an army bullet, enemy bullet. This is the monument to him at Almoda. And the whole tragedy of Kashmir war came to our house. But in a way, we are proud that, there are many youth and young officers like Nawang who are ready to lay down for the life for the country. But then we decided to do something positive for this. And on this sort of my favorite picture of Siachen, you will find many youngsters, officers, you'll say, sir, we are ready to fight for the country, but we don't want our children and grandchildren sitting on these Saltoro heights with the guns and waiting. So some solution has to be found. So one of the thing is that glacier is in terrible mess. It's such a bad condition that this is one of the world's most polluted area, with 2,000 people staying there for 26 years and doing nothing to clean it up. 45,000 shells are lying. And army makes it clear that until the war is stopped and we are out, this is going to be the condition. So what we proposed was a Siachen Peace Park. There is a kind of organization, IUCN in Switzerland, which when the two countries cannot find a solution to the problems, they empty the whole area and give it up to IUCN, who look after the area. A lot of world funds flow there, and Peace Park is created so that nature is allowed to grow. But this can be done only when both the countries agree, and looking at the current situation between India and Pakistan, that's not happening. And to promote this idea in 2002, with two Pakistani mountaineers and myself and one Indian mountaineer, we climbed a peak in Monch. And we were tied to the same rope. My companion was a Muslim and a Pakistani, but I would never think of ever that he would drop me or he would think that I would drop him. That is the bond actually existing between the two countries. And on the summit, we unfurled our flags, India and Pakistan pictures, and first time possibly in decades that India and Pakistan's flags were put up together on any of the mountain tops. But we have been right from childhood been told that Pakistan is our enemy, we must beat them, we must do this, and so it's very difficult to get rid of it. So the minute we started unfurling our flags, my Indian companion nudged me and said, just make our flag little higher. So that's how that little competition goes on, and until that is solved, we'll find it difficult to solve it. And such maneuvers of Pakistan and Siachen Peace Park would maybe allow us to let the roses of Siachen grow again, and that will be our tribute to the army. Thank you.